So my name is Yamuna Vinge. I'm a senior marketing manager here at Cambridge Assessment English, and I will be your host for the start until my colleague Pete can join us. We are extremely proud to welcome you to our Study in USA and Canada webinar series, specifically to explore major universities around the US that will welcome you with a B1 or a B2 level of English. And this is in partnership with our friends at Shorelight. So by way of introductions, you're probably quite familiar with Cambridge Assessment English, since many of you have taken or are preparing for one of our Cambridge English exams. And for those of you who are not familiar with Cambridge Assessment English, we are a part of the University of Cambridge. And for well over 100 years, we have actually been producing a variety of global standard exams and supporting the communities of primary, secondary, as well as higher education teachers and learners. So I'm just waiting for my slide to transition. Seems to be taking a little while. There we go. My apologies. My notes are getting a bit messed up here. Thank you. There we go. Now, our mission is about education. It's all about education. We are really here to help people learn English and prove their skills to the world. So we're not just focused on measuring English. We really want to be there to support our learners throughout their education, throughout their careers, and making sure that they have the skills that they need in order to succeed. And we do this by empowering the authentic communicative ability through assessment. And that covers the 4 key skills testing language in the modern world. We produce world-leading English standardized exams, which are used by more than 25,000 universities, employers, as well as government departments all over the world for multiple purposes, including admissions, for recruitment, for graduation, and a whole host of other purposes as well. Now, as a part of a university ourselves, we have been supporting admissions officers all around the world with exams such as B2 First, C1 Advanced, and IELTS. Now, IELTS is at the high stakes. It's an on-demand English exam for study abroad and for immigration, while C1 Advanced and C2 Proficiency are the most rigorous English proficiency exams, and with B2 First and B1 Preliminary are designed to be incorporated into your English learning so that you are well prepared for that next stage of your life. Now, this webinar is not about English proficiency exams themselves, yet we will be focusing on higher education options in the United States, specifically with B1 or B2 level of English. Therefore, let me just take a minute here to provide you with a bit more context of those options. So you will hear about some excellent options for you today. And to see all of these options, please do take a look at the Cambridge English website to see where all you can apply. Then take a look at the institution's website for more granular details, because we do not list on the Cambridge website the more granular requirements for each specific institute. Now, B2 First results are typically between 160 and 179 on the Cambridge English scale, and B1 Preliminary ranges from 140 to 159. Now, you might ask yourself, why do these details matter? Well, for example, you can apply to the world famous Juilliard Music School in the United States if you have a B2 certificate starting at 176, which is almost C1. In other cases, such as community colleges or public state universities and private institutions, you can apply directly with a B2 First starting at 160. Therefore, it is really important for you to check the institution's website for more details. And if for some reason Cambridge English qualifications are not noted on their website, please do contact the institution and us for any further assistance. And again, this workshop is definitely not about Cambridge. In fact, you're in for a treat today to learn more about your options for the US with a B1, B2. And so I will soon hand over to our presenter today, Eric. But before I do that, I would like to ask you all about your plans for study in the US, and two questions will pop up on the screen now. And we'd like to ask you these two questions. Are you planning to apply for an undergraduate or graduate level of study? And the second question that you're going to get is, are you thinking about a fall or a spring intake? So we'll give you a little bit of time to answer all of these things. Then we can go from there and have a little look at what you've been submitting. Give it a few more seconds. Yeah, still got a few more people. We have so many people on this call, it's amazing. Yeah, a few more doing the second question now. So it does look like majority of you are applying for graduate programs. And some of you, or most of you, are still a little bit unclear as to whether or not that is going to be a spring intake or a fall intake. That's perfectly understandable, absolutely. Okay, thank you for taking part in that, I appreciate it. And so with that, it's actually my absolute pleasure to introduce you to our presenter today. So please welcome Eric Feuerstein, Executive Director of Global Recruitment at Shorelight.
Thanks, Yamuna. Thanks so much for that wonderful introduction. And look at this group we have here today. Amazing. I have never been on a presentation with over 500 students. What an honor it is to be talking to you all. So this is fantastic. Let me just get up this presentation. Okay, so a very warm good morning from Los Angeles. I am talking to you from LA, California. I don't know how many of you have been here. I hope if you have, you enjoyed it, and I hope one day you can get to visit if you have not yet visited. Obviously, right now we're not traveling like we used to. We will again. So my name is Eric Feuerstein. Hi, hello, good morning. I'm just going to open up my questions here. I see we've got a lot of questions that are going to come in, and that's great. So everyone that has written questions, what I'm probably going to do is I will answer them more at the end, and sometimes I will answer them as I go. And I can see in our chat, we have a lot of great comments here coming in. Great, fantastic. So this is the largest group I think I've ever presented to using the internet. So thank you and good morning. So here we go. Let's go back to the title. What is this all about? This is, as Yamuna set up so magnificently, this is how do you take a B1, B2 level of English? And what do you do with that in the United States? What are your options with that level of English? And there are many options for you. And we're so happy to be working with Cambridge to be able to talk about their amazing historic language test. You know, it's basically the most historic language exam in the history of the English language. And that's why it's so respected by top universities and colleges in the United States. We love in the US anything that's historic and British. It's like amazing for us. So the Cambridge exam is very valuable when you take it. So who are we at Shorelight? Well, let's go to Marvel to at first talk just about something which I know is like a rumor or people think about, you know, let's go to this Marvel villain. If we're looking at, has the pandemic ruined US education? I think a lot of people think, you know, this pandemic is ruining everything. It's ruining education. It's making everything difficult. And I always like to let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. So that's like that's an expression. It's a euphemism for there's always something that people are thinking and maybe they're not saying. And the reality is that it hasn't. And it hasn't at all. If we want to use another Marvel character, Captain America, no, sorry, Captain Marvel, not Captain America. It hasn't. You know, this pandemic has made things very difficult for a lot of people. It's created a lot of complexities in our lives we never thought we would have to deal with. But I will tell you, the first thing to remember is that top universities and colleges in the United States went online immediately for the full year, and we will talk about them. So even though this has changed the way we learn, it's actually, I think, for you as students, depending on whether you're undergraduate or graduate, it's going to give you skills that I didn't have when I did my bachelor's degree. Everything was in person. Everything had to be in person. Everything we did, even at my, my first job, everything had to be in person, basically. And now think about all these skills you're all learning where everything is remote. And imagine when you'll start traveling again, that you'll have both skills, both kind of sides of your brain, where you'll be able to learn virtually or in person. And you don't need to worry about, I need to get to class to take notes. Those days are over. You'll be able to be very mobile, agile, and very attractive work candidates. And you'll be able to be very, very competitive students, which I actually think is an advantage. You are learning something that's a very, very required skill. Trust me, the older generation, we struggle with some of the technology, whereas for you, it's second nature. So let's just look at, first of all, who went virtual, day one of this pandemic. And number one, it was Harvard and Stanford. Immediately just said for the full year, we're online. Like they just came out and said, we're online. We're not going to take chances with travel and in person or not in person and blended and hybrid. They basically just said, we're going to wait till there's a vaccine. And until then, we're all staying home. All our faculty are staying home. And that doesn't mean that if you are in person, it's bad. But the reason I'm showing you this is these are literally the best universities we have in the United States. And they're right up there in the world with the best institutions in the world. And they are comfortable with virtual learning. So the idea that learning online is inferior to learning in person, yeah, it's not the experience of being in person. All of us are starved for personal interaction. But that doesn't mean you're not getting a wonderful education, and that doesn't mean it's not incredibly valuable. So Harvard, Stanford, these institutions went right online right away. And you can feel confident to know that if your university or college is currently online or will be online, you don't have to worry because everyone's in the same playing field. Everyone's dealing with the same thing. So I would say there's 500 people on this, but I wanted to ask you all, see if you can write in the chat. Now, Harvard and Stanford, who can tell me, or you can type, why don't you type it? What are the 8 Ivy League institutions? As you're Googling right now? Yeah, I see some of them. Ivy League, the 8 Ivy League institutions, Brown, UPenn, Harvard, Yale, yeah, Columbia, Princeton, yeah. What are the 8 Ivy League institutions? Okay, I see one that you're missing. Did anyone say Dartmouth? So Dartmouth is one of the 8. Anyway, there are 8 Ivy League institutions. I'm going to say them out loud. Dartmouth College, Cornell, Brown University, University of Pennsylvania, Princeton, Yale, Harvard, Columbia. Those are the 8. You notice that Stanford is not Ivy League. that doesn't mean Stanford is not basically the best in the United States. Stanford, I think the ranking is 4 this year. Ivy League is a group of 8 institutions, but it doesn't mean only those 8 institutions are the best. Stanford is not Ivy League. MIT is not Ivy League. Duke University, not Ivy League, but still top 10. So Ivy League is a specific group of very historic, very old institutions, but it's not like Russell Group in the UK, where only the top 30 are the Russell Group, basically. Ivy League is a group of 8. And then you have others like MIT, Caltech, Stanford, Duke, Northwestern that are not Ivy League, but still better ranked than some Ivy League. Okay. So virtual versus on campus. I talked about this before, and I think it is important just to emphasize again, is that these are skills that you are all learning that you're going to need in your future jobs, I promise you. So I put here, it's a resume icon. And these are some companies that maybe you will all work for one day. Think about the skills you're building right now and think about how important they will be when you are applying for jobs. Most companies will have remote positions where you will need to use this technology. So the idea of being in an office, being in person, it's really not relevant in some jobs. So these are actually great skills for you to learn. How can you remain tethered, attached to your company, doing good work and not being in person? That is actually something that is a great skill you're learning right now by learning online, or if you will learn online. So let's go to a map of the United States. And don't worry, this isn't a political map. I feel like everything we show the world right now is some red and blue, awful, disgusting map where it's all political and terrible. Let's get away from all that. And let's just look at the 50 states in the United States. So who can tell me on the chat, 500 people, how many colleges and universities are there in the United States? 150, 1200, a lot. 50, too much. Oh, someone said 3,600. Yeah. There are 5,300 is actually pretty close. 4,000. There are 4,500. 4,500 institutions in the United States at which you can study, and that's across 50 states. So we have a lot of different options. And you know, in the UK, how many are there in the UK? How many universities can you study at in the UK? 300, 1,000, 1,500, yeah. 40. Well, 40 is more like Australia. Yeah, the hundreds, you're right. I think my British friends on this call can confirm it's about 150, 140 universities, 130, depending on how you look at it in the UK. So 130, 140 to 4,500. That doesn't mean US is better. It just shows you the scale, you know, all the institutions. We're a huge country. We have 350 million people, over 50 states. So there's a lot of options. So let's start looking at those options. All right. Now, let's look at US rankings and the types of institutions that we have. So actually, there's many different types of rankings. There's Times Higher Education, which is a UK publication, which is very famous. And then there's US News and World Report. I'm only going to talk about the US News and World Report because I want you to put yourself at the dinner table with an American family. And when I was in your position, I remember sitting at the dinner table asking, you know, mom and dad, asking about college and university and looking at the rankings. And we as Americans commonly look at US News and World Report. It doesn't mean we don't look at Times Higher Ed or Shanghai Jiao Tong. There are many different ranking systems, or QS rankings, but most Americans are looking at least at US News and World Report. It's a very American ranking system. So everything I talk about today is from the perspective of this ranking, but a lot of students do consult Times Higher Education. It's a fantastic ranking system as well. So let's look at national universities and liberal arts colleges. So there are two types of institutions in the United States. There are the national universities, which are the ones that you know best, probably. Those are both public and private, and they have 8,000 students at least, as I put on this slide. Then there are liberal arts colleges. Now, I know in your countries, I've been to some of your countries from what I could see where you're from. I know you think of the word college as bad, as like worse than a university, but that's not true. So private colleges are as elite, as well ranked as universities. They're just judged differently because they're smaller and they don't have graduate programs. So there are private liberal arts colleges that have 4-year bachelor's degrees that are as well ranked basically in our minds in the United States as any university. I'll give you an example. Amherst College, I'm gonna put that. Amherst College is ranked, it's the #1 liberal arts college in the United States. It's considered basically on par with Ivy League, and it's not a university, just to give you an example. So think about that. There are colleges and universities, and it's not like the college that you think about necessarily. Colleges are not bad in the United States. There are 3 types of routes in the United States to study. There's freshman admission, which is the toughest, directly from high school. That's where you're dealing with the hardest entry levels. There is transfer admission, which is when you go from one institution to another. And that is actually way more common than you think. About 30% of universities and 30% of students are moving from one institution to another. President Obama was a transfer student. So this is very common to go from one university or college and finish at another. And then there's graduate admission, which is after your bachelor's degree. So this is important. Don't worry, I'm gonna get to what we do at Shorelight, but I want you to just see some of this stuff. Bachelor's degrees in the United States. When do you have to declare a major? You can see here in the 4 years, it's in the middle. So what are you doing in the first 2 years? Who can type that in the chat? What do you do in a US bachelor's degree in the first 2 years? So I'll say, yep, you take the classes that you want. I don't know. So Santiago, I see, yeah, you learn general things. Everyone at every university and college has to do this. So for example, Pete on this call, he and I both went to college in Boston. So we all have to do general education core requirements. You all have to do this no matter where you study, no matter what bachelor's degree you do. College writing, social natural sciences, humanities, and mathematics. And then you declare a major. So then you decide what you want to study years 3 and 4. Everyone has to do this because we want you to forget everything your parents and relatives told you you have to do for a good job. Ignore all that stuff. We know they love you. We know your parents love you. But the idea of US bachelor's degree is for you to understand what you like and what you're good at. Those are the keys to a US bachelor's degree. Because if you like what you do and you're good at it, then you will be able to get a good job with those things. Not what will make the most money, not what is good for a job, not what your aunt and uncle in Kansas told you to study. We know they love you. We know your relatives love you, but they're not you. You're the one that has to do the work. So US education system is very general intentionally. We know your relatives love you, but they're not you. You're the one that has to do the actual work. And this is the system. We embrace the ability to choose and change your mind. So let's look at standard entry. let's look at freshman admission. Let's look at the hardest type of admission. And you can tell me, Yamuna, how much more time, if I'm losing track, if I'm going over. So if I'm doing well.
You're good, you're good.
Cool. So let's look at kind of the nightmare. I want you to look at the nightmare first. Let's look at top 30 or kind of top 50 and look at the grades that you need to get into these top schools. So, you're going to need very high GPA, which is on a scale of 0 to 4. You're going to need SAT and ACT. And then you're going to need a TOEFL, IELTS, and I put the Cambridge exam score there. As my colleagues from Cambridge will tell you, that is a really high score. So be prepared if you want the best. Be prepared to have the best scores, and that's okay. That's good. You're all smart on this call, and I'm sure you all have awesome scores. But you need to know the reality versus just fiction. You need to know exactly what it's going to take. However, it doesn't mean all institutions ask for that. So this is standard entry. Standard entry is basically whether you're international, domestic, from New Jersey like I am, or from Argentina. I saw some people from Argentina. You're all in the same bucket. There's no kind of preference. There's no awareness. There's nothing like that. It's just, these are the grades you have to get, and these are the scores you have to get. Now I'm going to start talking about Shorelight. You've probably wondered, who is this guy? Why is he talking? When is he going to talk about this Shorelight stuff? So let me tell you what we do at Shorelight. We at Shorelight specifically partner with universities and colleges in the top 200 and top 100 on specifically international routes into these top institutions. And we understand that you are an international student, and it's not because you're not smart or you can't get high scores. It's because we understand you're not native English speakers and you need to be assessed slightly differently. And that's great. That's an advantage. I wish I had that when I was looking at a top 100 institution. We basically make the grades. It's less about it's less about SAT and ACT, and it's more about your grades, and it's about your English scores. So look at our top 100 requirements for our undergraduate programs. You can see you need a B2, 170 plus on the Cambridge exam, and you can see the TOEFL and the IELTS, and you need at least a 3.0. And we know based on our, kind of research that if you have a 3.0 GPA equivalent and you have a 170 Cambridge score, B2, you're going to do well. You're going to do well in a bachelor's degree in the US, because that's difficult to be speaking English at those levels, considering you're a non-native English speaker. So look at the difference in what we do for our programs versus direct entry. Direct entry is kind of a nightmare, and this is less of a nightmare. We want it to be less of a nightmare. We make it easier for you. It's an international entry, and then you will finish the bachelor's degree just like anyone else. Now let's look at graduate. Graduate degrees are not 4 years. Graduate degrees are either 1 or 2 years. And there aren't really any majors. You don't declare a major within a graduate degree. A graduate degree, you actually know before you start what you want to do, and it's 1 or it's 2 years. So let's look at graduate. Let's look at the graduate nightmare, and then let's look at what we do at Shorelight. And then I'm going to show you which schools we work with. So graduate programs, you can see here, still same nightmare GPA required for the top 30 programs. And the GRE and GMAT should scare you. It is scary. It's scary to Americans and to international students all around. That is a nightmare, yes, but you need to know. And you can see C1, grad programs would require a C1, 195 plus Cambridge English score to get into the best grad programs. GRE or GMAT, these are like SAT or ACT, but they're graduate exams. So think of it like a standardized test for graduate studies. It's the same thing like SAT or ACT. So it is hard, and it's meant to be hard. But remember, standard entry is not really smart. Standard entry is just anyone applies, Americans, international students. They don't look at your background. They don't consider where you're coming from. And this is the Shorelight version. So we have graduate programs, and look what we require. Again, only need a 3.0 GPA, and you need 170 plus English as well. We don't require GRE or GMAT in many cases. We make it a lot easier, not because these programs are garbage. It's not it. It's not because these programs are bad. It's because we know where you are from and we know what you're dealing with linguistically, and we make the entry, on the contrary, we make the entry easier for you. These are hard programs so that by the time you get into your graduate program, you're hitting the ground running. Okay, here we go. A lot of people asked me, yeah, I'm seeing that. A lot of people ask me about GPA. What is GPA? GPA is, thank you for that. GPA is on a scale from 0 to 4. Okay, so 4.0 the best, 0 being the worst. So think of a really good GPA as between a 3 and a 4 is what you want when you're looking at good universities and colleges, sometimes down to a 2.5. So the best universities and colleges ask for about a 3.8. So 3.8 out of 4 is hard. And we can talk about that. Not too many more slides, you'll see. These are all of our partnerships. We have about 20 different universities and colleges here. And you can see we have all the way from California to Washington, DC. We have in Ohio and Illinois. We have institutions all over, and all of our colleges and universities are in the top 200. So remember, how many colleges and universities are there? Remember, I told you the number. What is it? Can you type again? Yes. Yeah, you're listening. Yay, I feel good. You're listening. Awesome. Thank you. So out of 4,500, all of our institutions are basically in the top 200. So these are all of our institutions, and I put all the national rankings next to them. So right there, you can see these are all of the different institutions I just showed you. And these are all the national rankings. So we have these two, Utah and Auburn, are top 100. And then you can see the rest. University of Illinois Chicago is a 112 and just keeps going. You can see the entire list here. However, I wanted to tell you that University of the Pacific and University of Illinois Chicago are top 100 in the Times Higher Education rankings. So I am showing you US News and World Report rankings, but UOP, University of the Pacific in Stockton, California, and University of Illinois Chicago, those are actually top 100 if you look at different rankings. Everything in bold has a graduate degree. And no, not Washington State. We don't work with Washington State. I know which company you're thinking about. I know, Balpreet. That's okay though, that's a great school. So everything in bold has graduate degrees, and I've given some examples of popular graduate degrees. Oh, okay, so now I can start answering some questions, you'll see, because I have only one more slide. MBA is Masters in Business Administration. Then you can see some other degrees: computer science, data science, business analytics, and then all the engineerings. Which one's in California? So University of the Pacific is in California. Oh, awesome. Okay, so you know you are. I can see these are good comments coming in. We don't work with medical schools. We don't work with law schools. I'm going to talk about that in a second because I only have one more slide, and then I can answer all your questions. Get ready for a true nightmare: law school and medical school. Medical school, even more of a nightmare. I'm going to talk about it, but a great profession. I have a good buddy of mine who's a doctor. So what do we do at Shorelight? And then we'll talk about all this stuff coming in. So number one, flexible admissions criteria. Like I told you, you will be able to have a lower entry point or lower GPA. You don't need standardized tests when you work with us. In most cases, we make it easier for you. We have an application portal. So if you have an agency or a counselor or you're applying directly, we make it super simple. You apply, you don't need to wait weeks to hear back from a university or college. So when you apply standard, part of the nightmare is you have no idea when you're going to hear from them. I had the same experience. I sent my application and they told me if I'm in or not, and they did it at their own time. With us, we keep you updated. We let you know. We let you know where you are in your application, when you can expect a decision. The application turnaround is a lot faster through us because we partner with these universities. So you will get a decision basically within a week. Whereas if you apply directly, could be 3 months, could be 2 months. Take some time. We do visa preparation, interview support. So when students are actually traveling, we help kids with interviews, with visa preparation. We work with your agency or your counselor, and we help you with how to get to the United States, what you have to do. We have academic advisors. We have people that are going to guide you. You are direct universities and you are direct students at these universities and colleges, but we actually help you navigate those systems. So you're not treated as like a different student, but we support you as a student at that institution. We have support staff, so not academic staff. We have people that will help you with how do you get a meal plan? How do you get a bus? What's the metro system? What's slang, American slang? What are different cultural things you should be aware of? What's the best place to go in the city in which you're studying? All that stuff. We have people that truly want to help you to feel comfortable so that you can focus on studying. And then last but not least, we have something called a Career Accelerator Program. That is during your degree, we guide you and support you on how to find an internship, how to find a job through your university degree. So when you get an internship, that's your path to a work visa. If you get a work visa, that's your path to a green card. So if you want a green card in the United States. So we have people that guide you on all of those things and all the things you need to be aware of on a student visa in order to get a good job from your degree. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to start answering some questions because there's a lot of questions. And Yamuna, how much time do I have? So I don't go
loads
over.
of time. I'd say another good 10, 15 minutes we could
Brilliant.
do on Q&A. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm going to do some Q&A. I'm going to say a big thank you to all of you. Let's go through the questions. Anonymous attendee asks me, do those universities have an agreement with Ecuadorian universities? So why don't we go back to the page where you can see the universities, and let's go back here. All right. We don't have direct agreements with, an Ecuadorian university, but we do work with universities. So if you have contacts, if you have people that you think are interested, my friends and colleagues from Cambridge are going to send my contact details after this presentation. You'll have my contact details. Please write to me, and I can see if maybe these universities are interested in forming agreements, basically directly with universities. The cost. It's funny. I didn't even say the cost. It's a good point. I missed it. I left that out, right? So the costs in general at our universities and colleges for undergraduate education, it's between $20,000 all the way up to $50,000. But scholarships are really competitive. So we do scholarships that range anywhere from 20 to 30% if you have good grades. So that's in general the costs. We have very competitive scholarships. Graduate education is a little bit different. I would say for total graduate degree, it's going to be between basically $30,000 and $50,000 the full graduate degree, if that makes sense. So those are the costs, but we do scholarships. We have academic scholarships. If you're good, you'll be eligible for a scholarship. if I'm going all the way back here to the beginning, is there a major difference between fall or spring programs? That's from you, Santiago. I'm getting back to it if I can answer all this stuff. Fall is the main intake in the United States, but spring is still very accepted in the US, especially as an international student. So it's not, you're not in a worse position if you apply in spring. Usually standard entry is not available in spring, but for international students through Shorelight, it is. Pete, I don't know if you answered that. Nicoletta said, what is an intake? An intake is when a semester happens. So fall intake is like August, fall semester, and spring intake is January, spring semester intake. When you can enter is what intake means. How far can we go with English B1 and B2? As the sky is the limit, my friend Maria, the sky is the limit. With B1, B2, like I said, you can go anywhere, basically. I'm attending a fashion product design course. Is there any opportunity to compare my work with university? I would say we don't have graduate degrees in fashion product design, but undergraduate degrees. There are many institutions that have fashion design in years 3 and 4. So you would declare a major after general studies. Classical languages, Luigi, there are many, most of our universities and colleges have a very strong classical languages department, but it is something, again, you're going to study years 3 and 4. So we actually have most of what I'm showing you on the screen. They have classical languages department. It just depends on where you want to study, and what your kind of preference is. Guadalupe, you ask a great question. Can you transfer from university in your country to a university in the US? Yes. So not only can you transfer from within the United States, you can transfer from out of the US into the US. Lola Ray, what is a bachelor's degree? I think we covered that. Laura, what's GPA? We covered that. Augustina, how can I take an SAT exam while being abroad? Good question. Augustina, go to the local US embassy in your country, or US, they'll have like an American center. Every country has an American center. Just ask them, how do I take the SAT or the ACT? Because I can see a lot of people have asked, what is an SAT or ACT? So SAT is standardized. It's a standardized test. ACT is the same standardized test for high school students entering university. Ask them, any US center in your country, they will tell you where you could take this test. Every country, you can take these tests in at least the capital city in your countries, at least. Usually in most cities, in multiple cities. Maria, can you choose more than those general education core requirements? Usually no, but at Brown University, you can design your own major, which is very rare. But if you can get into Brown, that's the key. Brown is Ivy League, very hard to get into. In most cases, you can't. They're set for you. But you decide what you want to do years 3 and 4. So you will have choices within the general education system, but the areas of general education are required. You can take different classes to fulfill the requirements, but they're set. They're set areas or quadrants. Then you choose your major, years 3 and 4. How can we calculate our GPA for a country? We use a 0 to 10 scale. So German, don't worry, we convert for you. So depending on your country, we know your country and we know the grades. That's the benefit of working at Shorelight, with Shorelight, is that we can convert for you. What is GPA? Grade point average, 0 to 4, 4 being the best. Are high school grades important when applying to universities? Yes, is the national prestige of the school you frequented considered? Good question, Paulo. Your high school might be considered, let's say Harvard might know your high school, but in most cases they're looking at you, not your school. So I wouldn't worry too much about whether or not you went to a certain high school. It's more about what kind of candidate are you? And yes, high school grades are very, very important when you're looking at top universities. What's the difference between undergrad and grad? So undergrad is bachelor's degree, graduate is master's degree. GRE and GMAT, that's the nightmare. Standardized tests for graduate programs. That would be depending on what type of grad program you're looking at. And not all graduate programs require this, especially through Shorelight. We waive this because in most cases, it's ridiculous to ask international students to do it. But in some programs, you do need to do it, especially standard entry. Lorena, how am I doing on time, Yamuna? Almost done?
You're
Just so
doing
much-
great. You've got like maybe another 5 minutes of Q&A, I think.
Sure. Everyone has to see me have more coffee.
You're doing great, Eric. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, if you did IGCSE or A levels, absolutely. Those go directly to universities and colleges as standard entry, or we also do it through Shorelight. So we know the system. Usually it's like we want to see 5 Bs in your O levels and at least 2 Bs in A levels. Maybe we can do 1 C in your A levels, but you should have all A stars, right? I'm sure you all do. You have A stars. All right, so GRE, talked about that. Degrees for architecture. Ooh, Anna, that's a good one. So I live in LA. One of the best universities and colleges in the world for architecture is University of Southern California. We don't work directly with them, but we have a transfer program actually, Anna, where we have students transfer into University of Southern California. Architecture is a 5-year degree, just like engineering. In many cases, engineering and architecture, they add a year for licensing, especially architecture. You get a master's, bachelor's combined, but then you get the licensure, it's called, to be able to practice as an architect. Great degree. I highly recommend LA or New York if you want to be an architect. Yes, there are many degrees for architecture. Marina, do universities have programs for social studies? Oh yeah, I was a psychology major, Marina. Social studies are the easiest major to find and really, really interesting. And just because it's an easy major to find doesn't mean it's not attractive to an employer. So we call this like humanities. Social sciences are really, really, really popular now because they're kind of liberal arts, which is attractive to employers. And history, every university and college will have a history department. So that's great that you like that. You don't understand the difference between undergrad and grad. So you are potential for undergrad. Graduate is what you probably call, Maria, postgraduate. Like in the UK, they call it postgraduate. We call it graduate. So undergraduate is bachelor's degree. Okay, so you are eligible for a bachelor's. Giuseppe, where can I study engineering? Everywhere. Everywhere, Giuseppe, everywhere. Engineering is one of the key degrees, either it's business or engineering. There are a few institutions that don't have engineering departments, but there are so many different options I can help you with if you have further questions. Everything I've showed you on the screen basically has engineering, except for maybe two of the destinations. Where do we need to apply? If you're interested in our Shorelight programs, I can help you apply directly, or if you have an agency or counselor, we have a portal for agencies or counselors. So Angeles, if you write to me after when you have questions, I can help you to show you how to apply. It's very, very simple. Okay, Lourdes. You have to be 17 basically when you start your academic program. We do have some 16-year-olds, but you need to be 17 by the time you basically progress to the full-time. Let's just say you need to be 17 by the time you're doing your academic studies, is what I will say, once you're through our international program. Scholarships. So Augustino, I talked about scholarships. All right, whoops. You can study languages everywhere. There are language departments at every university and college on the screen. Chiara, economy and management, everywhere. Very, very popular majors, great majors, good for work. If you like it, remember you have to like it, not just good for work. Food engineering. Now, anonymous attendee, that is a trickier one. Food engineering is a pretty specific degree. I would have to think about that. I don't know off the top of my head exactly food engineering. I would say you probably want to study in California if you want agricultural engineering, just because agricultural, the export business for agriculture here is incredible in California. So I would think California, and I would want to look in California. We have a University of the Pacific in California, and I would want to look at their engineering degrees and see how it relates. All right, and let's see. I'll put this on the screen so you can see the names. Art, Mariana. You could study art everywhere. Actually, funny enough, on the screen, Louisiana State University has an excellent arts program. And Pacific, actually, in California, again, has a wonderful arts program, as does the University of South Carolina as well. Yeah, so archaeology. Yeah, if you want to do archaeology, don't worry if it's not offered as a specific bachelor's. As long as you do a bachelor's in something related, whether it's sociology, anthropology, could even be psychology, then you wanted to do a master's in archaeology, that's fine. That's okay. You don't need to do a bachelor's exactly in what you want. As long as your bachelor's is maybe related to what you want to do for your master's, in most cases, that's fine. And in some cases, it doesn't have to be related at all. And there are so many other questions, Yamuna. I think I would love to answer them one by one with them.
Yeah, it's been an absolute marathon, and you've done it fantastically. Only 2 sips of coffee, Eric, so well done you. I think absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everyone who's been so amazingly engaged, asking fantastic questions as well. Well done, everyone. I'm just going to clarify one teeny tiny point, Eric, that we just noticed, and I believe that was, I'm just gonna close this thing. That was around the Cambridge English scale. I believe the question was around, top universities, and whether or not they would accept it and what was the level they'd accept it at. And I believe it's at C1 180, actually. Yeah, so that's actually really, really fantastic. So that's good to know.
Could I go back to that screen just so they can see?
Oh, sure, of course.
Want to leave it at 180. I could show them the standard admission if they want to see it again to the top.
Yeah, did you want to put that up now? Or?
Let me just show them one more time. So
fantastic.
Let's go back to, I call it the nightmare. I am approximating, so my colleagues in Cambridge will know way better than I do. But just so you can see here, kind of top 100, I'm putting C1. I want you to think C1. So don't worry about the numbers. That's less important than knowing C1.
That's it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Brilliant. Okay, so with that, I'm going to attempt to share again. This is the beauty of live, doing it live. You're never entirely sure what you're going to get. Okay, so first of all, I just want to say really thank you, Eric. Thank you so much for working with us and for sharing these amazing insights. I think it's been incredibly informative. I think we had over 500 people actually dial in and listen and engage with us. Hopefully they've had a lot of useful takeaways from this session. So for all of you who have dialed in and taken the time to be with us today, if you are considering applying to the US and you're looking for your best fit, please do consider how Shorelight programs could actually be your ideal fit. So I think it's worth reaching out to Eric. You will get his contact details. We will follow up with you after this event. In terms of finding your fit with North America in general, this webinar series will continue on November the 23rd as well as the 24th with an overview of applying to universities across Canada, and that's going to be hosted by our friends at Western University. So please do keep an eye out on our website, which is just down there, as you can see, little URL for sign-up links, as well as any other series as well. And with that, I'm just going to say thank you to all of our amazing students who joined us today. We wish you all the best in your application process. Till next time, please do stay safe, everyone, and goodbye. And thank you again, Eric.
Thanks so much to all of you. Thanks to Cambridge and to all you students. Please, as Yamuna said, please stay safe. Take care of yourselves. And we'll see you in person soon. Don't sweat it. It's going to be over soon. Thanks so much to everyone. Thanks, Yamuna.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rachel. Thanks,
Bye.
Pete.